So there's been, obviously, with Mike McDaniel going to Miami, he took a lot of coaches with him. He took, Wes Welker. I think he took the offensive line coach, the tight ends coach, and then also, Hightower, the special team coach, signed with the Bears. So a lot of changes seem to be there. I thought it was the biggest change, like most changes in a season. You obviously, told me, hey, last season there was actually more coaching changes than there has been this season. I didn't know that, but it seems like this side, it's like one side of the ball. A lot of coaches have left. So how do you feel like this is going to affect, the 49ers overall? And, who do you expect to be coming in to replace some of these roles?
Replacing him, that's a tough one, to be honest, because everything's wide open when it comes to coaches, because there's no rules that you literally could leave a team, and so long as your team doesn't block it, and go to another team no matter what, like we just saw Richard Hightower.
Right.
You literally, that's always hard to anticipate, so I'm not going to pretend to know, other than the only thing you can always look at is, all right, who's friends with Shanahan, who's friends with someone, who's you have ties with. And that's
let's start with the first part, Jose. How do you feel like the coaches that we know right now that have left, how big of an impact do you think that's going to make on the 49ers? What kind of role did they play? And where do you see maybe there being like bigger holes or, smaller holes that the 49ers have to fill?
I think the main loss is McDaniel. Now you could throw in Welker too, because of the work he did with Debo. You can't discredit what he's done with John Jennings, Kendrick Bourne, all those players. So he's been like solid there. Especially when I feel like when Miles Austin's left, well, you can always can't discredit him too. But yeah, Wes is going to be a sting, but I think ultimately Mike McDaniel is the one I want to focus on, because I've seen, so many tweets, so many people saying like the offense is going to be fine. Kyle Shanahan's the real cook, and those are his assistants. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure anyone who has a very viable partner / assistant, they will credit and even admit themselves. Yeah, that's kind of tough loss. That's going to be an adjustment. And what happened last season when Kyle Shanahan lost last offseason, when he lost Mike LaFleur to the Jets. That was another. He literally was Mike McDaniel, Mike LaFleur. That was right and left hand man, pass game, run game. When he lost LaFleur to the Jets with Saleh, that was felt immediately in the first half. I mean, first half of the season, in my opinion, the way the offense was looking kind of skittish. There was lacking identity. It was like, man, I don't know what it is, but at the very least, there's at least partially losing LaFleur had an impact, because what he does is he gathers his offensive guys, both of them together. They help him make the scheme, and I don't know too much if they help him game day, but the scheme, and always the game plan on Sundays, that first half of the season, was like, what is this game plan from Shanahan? And it took until week 10 for them to figure it out.
Right.
So that was a learning curve for sure. Maybe it's not definitive, but at least partially, right? And the same thing with the defensive backs when they lost Tony Oden to what was it? Was it Cleveland or was it? No, that was Joe Woods. When they lost Tony Oden, all of a sudden the DBs are getting DPIs like crazy that first half of the season. So that was a new learning curve as well. So I think when McDaniel's being gone, he loses that offensive mind that his buddies forget all the other things. He loses his buddy that he's been with his whole majority of his coaching career, and that's something, a routine he's gonna have to figure out differently. Now, sure, you have Anthony Lynn to help soften that blow, shrink that.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because this Anthony Lynn, I think, is probably the biggest stature coach that over this tenure has been brought in, right? Usually it's internal hires, or like smaller type, coaches that maybe haven't had the type
Chris
of success.
Forster.
Yeah, so but Anthony Lynn has been a head coach, has been coordinators on other teams, obviously is well respected by players around the league, as well as has had a lot of success in the running game specifically. And, Mike McDaniel obviously was the running game coordinator. To bring in somebody like Anthony Lynn, who has the type of stature, has a relationship with, Shanahan as well, dating back to, when he was just even a young kid around, his dad coaching. How big of a move was that by the 49ers? What does that say about Kyle Shanahan bringing in somebody who has already been a head coach for the first time in this, tenure that he's had with the 49ers?
Well, Shanahan's always been great with building a staff, so that's probably that might be his greatest strength, next or even equal to him calling plays.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they have so many coaches leaving, that's not a knock. That's actually a great accreditation to what he does with hiring, with finding talented coaches. You could say the same thing. That's why he lost. That's why he lost 10 coaches last year. You know, I remember I wrote a piece saying like, hey, like, don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, it sucks. Yeah, replacing them, it's going to be a little tough, especially the turnover is rough, and they felt it last season to a degree. But that's a great sign. That's saying, hey, Kyle Shanahan knows how to find these guys. He knows his staff. So that's why now you're going to start hearing a lot more, especially with McDaniel's Miami, a coaching tree, the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you have the McVay and the Belichick tree. So getting Anthony Lynn, that's a solid hire. It's great. I just don't think he's going to be able to fit those same shoes that Mike McDaniel is leaving at the door with the 49ers. Again, just because of that's been his guy who's side of the hip. That's been your friend who's been able to help construct plans, construct plays. You know, has been someone, you know, pretty much your secondary, your helpful guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying Lynn can't be up to that standards, but I really do think some people are kind of dumbing down the loss of McDaniel, especially since we already seen what happened when he lost LaFleur last year, and now he doesn't have anybody who's grown up with as a coach, and he has Lynn, which is great. You know, veteran guy, shouldn't be too much of a learning curve, but they also have him to work with Trey Lance, so a lot of benefits here. But
that's what I think the biggest
McDaniel losses too is as small as people think.
Right. I mean, I kind of push back just a little bit. I think Mike McDaniel obviously is a big loss, not just for his X's and O's, but that personality that he has, I think, made the team around him. It was just fun. I'm sure the players loved him. He brought, you know, he seems like super positive.
I'll tell you, at the handful of training camps, just being close to him 10 yards away, this guy kind of like gets after and jokes with them and messes with them. Like, it's almost like kind of jockish, but not like so much of a, you know, like a D-back type of way. But, you know, to see the way he gets after and it's kind of juiced up. He's like, oh, I feel it, guys. I feel it. Let's go. Like, and then he messes around. He's like, oh, Debo, look at you. Or he'll say something like that. Like, he's just straight like being himself. So the way he on the press conference is like, so that yeah, you're right about that for sure. It's just funny to see that you brought that up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that personality obviously is going to be a loss, but the good thing is Anthony Lynn is known as a player's coach as well. So I believe he's going to build a good, you know, rapport with the team as well. And I think the last point you made is one thing that I'm actually excited about, because the quarterbacks that Anthony Lynn has actually coached are more similar to the skill set of what Trey Lance is able to bring than I think any other coach that is on this staff right now. And especially with, you know, Anthony Lynn in that 1 year he had Herbert, and, you know, obviously Herbert is an amazing player, but Herbert was rookie of the year that year. So to see what Anthony Lynn could bring to the table as far as being able to mentor or coach Trey Lance, or help even Shanahan out with how to game plan or utilize all the attributes that a Trey Lance has, I think that could be a big, big deal, because one thing that I felt is that, you know, Shanahan has worked with a certain type of quarterback for however long. Since RG3, it's all been the same type of quarterback, it seems like. So Trey Lance can have some of those attributes, but he also has a lot of other things in mobility that he can do. So to unlock that, I trust that maybe Anthony Lynn can give Shanahan some pointers, just because we've seen him be able to do that with other quarterbacks that he's coached, from, you know, Herbert to Tyrod Taylor and so on and so forth.
I concur with everything you say. I just refuse to ever give Anthony Lynn a single ounce of credit for Justin Herbert. He didn't want Herbert to start. People forget that. Tyrod Taylor, if it didn't take a punctured lung from a needle, then Herbert rookie year doesn't happen. He was literally trying to stonewall his growth in rookie year. So I'm not giving him any credit at all. Tyrod Taylor, sure, those years with the Bills and whoever else, yeah, awesome guy, perfect. And which is why you people are considering a backup for Lance with Tyrod. But Herbert, no, he did not want Herbert to start. So let's all remember that. And he completely looked stupid as soon as Herbert was lighting up immediately the first 5 games. So that to me, that's just, I don't know. His judgment call on that was way off. And it literally took a freak accident for us to get Herbert. So that's
Look,
just
if Trey Lance comes out and lights the world on fire in this year too, some people might say the same thing about Shanahan, right? So it's all, I think it's all kind of just in the moment. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. Maybe Herbert wasn't looking that as good, or like you said, you never know until they're actually in the game. And I think that was more just let the rookie sit a year, which seems to be kind of like a certain thought process is just no matter who the rookie is, sit him for a year, let him play the next year. But obviously, Herbert is too much of a stud to be held back. Cool. Let's get into some of these comments real quick. Silverado Kev, my brother. I was actually supposed to be doing a show with him, but he seems to be a little bit under the weather. I guess he took a booster shot, so he's just recovering for that. So we'll definitely get him on the show hopefully next week sometime. Let's see. Kim Ferrison. Shanahan has grown up around Anthony Lynn. He knows Anthony Lynn very well. It wasn't like he just all let me pick that guy just because he's a veteran. He knows Anthony Anthony very, very well. I agree.
McDaniel, though, that's the point I'm saying. Like, of course he knows him. All coaches know each other like that. You're not just gonna hire a random coach. That's why when you go into a new staff, you fire everyone. Like, I don't know you guys. I'm gonna bring on my own people. I'm sure he knows him. I'm sure he has connection to him, but it's not the same at all when you're coaching your whole life from the Houston Tech from like 2005, 6, 7, 8. So now with the same guy, you've been helping them. So that's a huge difference.
James Coombs thinks maybe all this coaching shuffle might be needed to get us over the hump and better help Lance. And I agree. I think there's going to be obviously new blood can lead to, new excitement, new ways of thinking about things. And there is something to be said about how stagnant the 49ers offense has been in the playoffs, especially in the fourth quarter. Very few points being able to be scored. I know a lot of that people want to blame just on the quarterback. But, to have the type of fourth quarters that the 49ers have had, not just this offseason, but in previous off seasons as well, shows a little bit of a trend. And some of that, I think a lot of that has to go on the shoulders of Kyle Shanahan. And maybe bringing in a guy like Anthony Lynn, who has been a play caller, who has been somebody who's been a head coach for teams that have had some success, having that kind of brain trust might help the team moving forward.